Welcome. I'm Deborah Walters, and welcome to Friday's Query. Thanks for checking in. Today's question is about stress and the things that cause stress and keep you in that space of stress. So I have a question from Sheldon in Chicago, and he says, Deborah, I have this voice in my head and it talks to me and it keeps me captive. He says, how can I work through this when the part of my brain keeps me in anxiety and depression? What can I do to oppose this? Sheldon, this is a really common human experience. So, welcome to the human world. There's a lot of things and simple things you can really do to create tools to practice helping yourself kind of be released from this type of prison, as you so wisely called it. The first thing I would ask you to do is recognize that there is this thought not promoting peace inside. This is probably the most important uh, This is the most important step of all the steps I'm going to give you today, because oftentimes we are under the guises of our thoughts and thinking, and we're just not aware of what's happening. So the first step is awareness. Recognize I'm having a thought of war right now. This is not causing peace. It's raising my blood pressure, whatever. It's causing me to not have peace. So that's the first step. The second thing is you have to decide what's going to oppose this thought that isn't so peaceful, which means you have to have in your arsenal bag a couple of really strong thoughts of compassion, some really strong thoughts of peace, and some really strong thoughts of love. So oftentimes you have to recognize, am I having a thought of hate? What is this prison, right? If it's hate, I need to oppose it with a stronger thought of peace and love. So what are your top 3 feelings and thoughts that inspire this really beautiful love inside of you? What about compassion? What causes you to feel compassion? Is it a child getting hurt and with his arms wide out crying? Is it an animal? Is it your pet? What things cause you to feel absolute, this love, tender spot of you? You're going to need these ahead of time, because when you're in this prison and the thoughts have you wrapped around their finger, you can't think rationally. It's not as easy. So have them ahead of time. Get your top 5 thoughts of love, peace, compassion, all ready to go. And they have to be stronger than the one that is currently having you in its guise. Number 3. So the first step, once you have your thought of compassion, is bring this energy in. And you have to validate and nurture whatever feeling or thought is happening, even if it's hateful, even if it's vengeful, it's awful, it's anxious, it's depressing. You have to acknowledge it. Hello, you're here. What do you want from me, right? So you have to get down to it and say, I see you, I validate you. That it's having a valid problem from its perspective, right? It's probably not the wisest thing. If it's got you wrapped around, it's probably your ego and not the wisest thought. But again, it's part of you. It's like if you had a headache, you have to validate the headache. Your head's in pain. What are you going to do? You're going to have a compassion response. So the first step is always approaching these parts of us is compassion, validation, nurturing, tenderness. I see you. You're valid. It's okay to feel this way, right? Then the next step is to create some form of examination. Is this thought valid? Do I really need to listen to this voice? Is it offering me real guidance? It's getting my attention, so you have to understand why. Is there something I need to forgive? What is my responsibility in this? There's a type of examination that has to happen after we have a response of compassion. And then once we come to some interesting conclusions or some wisdoms, we want to discipline this thought, right? Which leads us to the next step, which is a type of re-education. Is that you want to take these thoughts that are probably ego-driven, I, me, my, I'm not getting what I want something different, dissatisfaction of some type. It may have some real valid concerns, so you want to find that out, and then you want to re-educate it. Okay, this is important to me, but we need to do this in a wise way, and this is where the re-education is really a reunification inside, where your spirit can come in and decide what is a wise course of action right now, right? This is perfect energy if you do these 3: validate, discipline, examination, and then you want to re-educate and unify within, and that we all are on the same page or on the same plan, and actions, words should be this, so that you're always coming from a higher place. Even though on the inside you may be in pain and suffering, you're actually taking action on the outside that is wise. Sometimes you might just come to the conclusion that touching this very tender spot of you, this healing pain, is the healing that you need. So your healing will actually come from the pain and the tenderness of that pain. And the last thing I'll tell you, Sheldon, is the most important thing is to breathe in and out of your heart center. Okay? You can also write a letter to a person that's hurt you or your own self. And that often just takes things off your plate. Don't send the letter, but just write it out. Write out all your feelings. Give that a shoulder to cry on, this part of you, right? So sit and breathe and just sit with and abide with this pain. Abiding is such a healing force. It's unbelievable when you sit with something with tenderness and just abide, even in silence. Just breathing in tandem with someone sometimes really helps. Thank you, Sheldon, for your question. I hope you've helped some other people. You helped me think about it again, what I should do for my weekend. And please, if you're interested, send me a question. I would love to answer them. Send it in the subject line if you could write Friday's Query, and the email address is below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot.